I mean, what did we just watch?
You are Locked On Kansas State, your daily podcast on the Kansas State Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Woo. Welcome on into Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Christian Rao, and thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen every single day. Welcome back to my everydayers. Welcome back to everybody who has probably got as much anxiety as I have. And guess what? We found a way to make it through. Kansas State defeats North Dakota 38-35. But what was that? This was a game that I thought we were going to be seeing our quarterback two in the second half. This is a game that I thought we were going to see more freshmen, some more depth players. We're going to get some more answers on that. None of that happened in this matchup. Drop your comments below. Give me all your thoughts on this game. I see him already chiming in. Ask some questions on the show as well. We'll get those answered. All this stuff's happening right here on Locked On Kansas State. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Help me keep my job as we continue on to talk about the Wildcats. 38-35. I mean, and just last minute touchdown just to get the win here. I had two different thumbnails to get ready for this one, two different titles to get ready for this live show because it was just out of control. This was rough to watch. And I'm sure if you didn't crack yourself a frosty beverage, now's the time to do so. You made it. You got it through. Overall, Avery Johnson's stats look good, but I don't think he performed very well. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. The offensive line, still a ton of concerns, and what happened to the defense. Secondary gave me a lot of concerns. And, you know, this is going to be a different type of conversation, I think, than you're normally used to listening to on Locked On Kansas State, because I think we finally maybe saw a little bit of an identity here, and it's not a good one for Kansas State. Let's start with Avery Johnson. That's obviously the best way to start here. You know, Avery Johnson's passing totals were good. You know, he goes 318 yards. That's his career high. First time ever surpassing 300 yards in his career. He surpassed when he went against, I believe, West Virginia, and he was 293. I think that's what he had, or 298. I don't have the number exactly right up in me, but his high last year was against West Virginia. 318, 3 touchdowns, completion rating 65%. But that completion percentage is skewed. You go back to that Jared Tibbs touchdown, should have been an interception. In the first half alone, there was about 3 to 4, if you want to count that Tibbs touchdown pass, 3 to 4 of his passes. He went 28 for 43, by the way. That should have been intercepted. I mean, they were tipped. They were in North Dakota's hands, excuse me. And he got lucky. I mean, he got lucky. There was one in the second half. He actually threw an interception, but there was defensive pass interference, and he got that one back. So as of right now, Avery Johnson still continues to be flawless if you're looking at the box score. I mean, we're talking, you know, almost 600 yards. I think he is at 600 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions between the last 2 games of the season, to start the year. But if you actually see it, you know, last week there was a couple moments, especially in the first half when the weather was bad, that maybe you could see the passes were behind, but they got to the receivers. Today, there was a couple moments where Avery Johnson just wasn't living up to the moment. It just didn't happen. And we really need to get that ready to go against Army. Army lost to an FCS school, by the way. And I thought that we were going to come into this game on Saturday saying, okay, let's take care of North Dakota. Then we can move on to Army, a team that just lost to an FCS school. This feels completely different now heading into Army. This feels completely different now with Army coming, although they didn't look great, losing in double overtime to Tarleton State. But now you can't think that that's going to be a game that you can just overlook like you just did with North Dakota. Because Avery Johnson played every single offensive snap. That's something that should not have happened in this one. He shouldn't have even been out there in the third or fourth quarter. That's what should have been taken care of. And you can't blame Dublin. You can't blame Dublin as much as I want to. And we're going to get to these comments in just a minute. I see him chiming in. And the reason I say that is, look what Iowa State did today. And I hate to say it, folks, but you can't blame the trip over internationally. You just can't do it. You just can't do it after seeing what Iowa State did. And then you have this type of hangover for Kansas State. It's just really tough for me to say and point a finger and saying, yeah, we're having a tough start because we went to Dublin. When you see what Rocco Beck did and complete all of these school records, or whatever the case he did in the game today on Saturday in Ames as well. That's just where my face sits. That's just where it goes. The offensive line, I mean, what do you think about that? Let me know your thoughts about the offensive line in the comment description below if you're listening here on YouTube. I thought that they struggled yet again. I was hoping for some kind of statement on the offensive line. We did see some injuries. We saw Terrence Enos go out in the third quarter. He did return in the same quarter. He was out for, I think, about a drive is what I noticed. He came back. Gus Hawkins, he had some good moments. One of the Devin Rice touchdowns, Gus Hawkins had a great block. I think he did okay. I'm excited to see what the PFF numbers look like from him. Andrew Leingang played on the left side as well as the right today. Came in on played a little bit for Taylor Potier on the left side. I mean, how much is it that we're missing George Fitzpatrick? I'll know he's a left tackle, but in the interior offensive line, and it's something that I thought was going to be a strength of this team with Taylor Potier, with JB Nelson, of course, with Sam Heck, we're just not getting any push. And even with Dylan Edwards being out, and Dylan Edwards is going to be one that's going to specialize on the outside tackles, the jet sweeps, the screen plays, the things like that, I think are going to still succeed. But that's not really answering our question of what's going to happen inside the guard game, inside the tackles. And I don't think we've met that yet. There was a couple moments where Joe Jackson had some decent plays. He averaged 5 yards a carry today, 55 yards for 11 carries. He broke one for 13 yards. I mean, you take that when you can. I mean, Devon Rice played great, 7 carries, 40 yards. He averaged 5.7 yards a carry. He is turning into that type of hype player that we kind of thought Joe Jackson was last year. So having those two in the backfield is really exciting. And just knowing that Dylan Edwards is hopefully right around the corner is exciting as well. But I'm just not there yet with this offensive line, with this running back room. Hopefully it changes when Dylan comes back. But this game shouldn't have been close, folks. This game shouldn't have even been close. I do like the fact that they passed a ton more than they did in Iowa State. And I think that was ultimately always the plan, week 0. I do. I don't think they were expecting the weather to be terrible. And again, I know that's an excuse, but of course you have to change your game plan when there's no Dylan Edwards and there's a monsoon in the first half of week 0. But in this one, you got some decent weather. I think I only saw it in Manhattan that it rained a little bit in the second half. If you were at the game, let me know in the comments if that was any different. But what I noticed on the TV broadcast is it wasn't really anything crazy until the second half. And it didn't even look that bad, especially compared to what Dublin was. But you had 28 receptions in this one. You had 16 targets to Jace Brown. That's fantastic. I mean, seeing Jace Brown get 7 targets in the first quarter alone, getting him a long play, which seems inevitable these days, getting at least a 40-yard touchdown pass to Jace Brown is like on your bingo card. It might as well be there for Kansas State all season long. And him getting 12 receptions on 16 targets, going for 109 yards is exactly what you want to see. And to be honest, that could have been a lot better, because some of those passes that we mentioned earlier in this segment about what Avery was doing, and some of those passes were not great whatsoever, were going to Jace Brown. So I like that momentum moving forward. But Avery's got to get right. He's got to show a little bit more confidence in the pocket. He's got to make sure that he's ready to go, because a lot of those passes were a little worrisome, might I add. At least I think so. I want to get to the defense. The defense scared the heck out of me, folks. I want to do that on this show, and then I'm going to take your questions and comments, and we'll stay as long as you want to talk. We'll do that on this reaction show, this live reaction show of Locked On Kansas State. But first, college football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, energy in the stands. I mean, it's awesome that we got to play this one in Manhattan, actually a home game. There's nothing like it, but let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than a game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I personally have been using Game Time for a few years now. It's the app that gives you an advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets and the best prices with no surprise fees. It's what you see, and it's what you get to pay when you get to see that. I love that you can pull up the Game Time and just a couple taps, you get amazing deals. I mean, I'm talking about you can get deals as low as $25, which is a steal these days in the world that we live in. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. download Game Time today. We're talking a Kansas State win, thankfully, 38-35 against North Dakota. And I've predicted 31-7, and I thought I was giving a light prediction because I thought, Chris Klieman respects the FCS opponent. He comes from the Missouri Valley, comes from North Dakota State, but North Dakota is where he did his coaching. He's got a lot of ties in that. I thought maybe in the second half he'd let the gas up a little bit. That was my prediction because of 31-7. I did not predict that we are going to have Avery Johnson in for the entire game and go down to the last drive, have him have to make some Hercules plays to win this one 38-35. Didn't see it coming. The defense was fantastic on that final drive. And I wish we had that the entire game because the defense, especially in the secondary, struggled a lot. There was a ton of moments where they were letting wide receivers get the best of them. They were beating them on routes to the outside, over the top, across the middle. I mean, it was everywhere. And it was not just the corners. It wasn't just the safeties. It was some of the outside linebacking play. It was out in the flats. Overall, I really hope that when the tapes come out, they have some long study on these films because I don't think the defense played well at all. I truly don't. The defensive line struggled. I mean, you look at this offensive line for North Dakota. It was one of the things they showed on the broadcast, the average weight across the offensive defensive lines on both sides of the ball. And Kansas State outweighed them and heighted them on both sides of the football. But I think they were pushed around on each side. North Dakota came to play. I think they saw that tape in Iowa State. I think they saw that there were some issues on the right side of that line. And they said, we can take advantage of that. And that's absolutely what they did. And that's why you saw there was only a decent amount of rushing from Kansas State, only 143 yards. And a lot of that came in that final drive when you had a 25-yard break from Avery Johnson, things like that. So to me, I'm trying to take this as what it is. This is a football game. We got the win. We're 1-1 now. Awesome. That's good. But you got to build confidence for the rest of the weeks. And now you're going against an Army team that struggled, but it's still Army, and they still play physical. And if you were just getting beat up by a smaller team in North Dakota on the defensive line, what is going to happen when you're playing a grit service academy that will ultimately also be smaller on the trenches as well? I mean, they got to find a way to get confident. They got to find a way to make a statement, and they did not do that in this matchup whatsoever. I mean, first quarter alone, Kansas State had 11 rushing yards. These are some of the stats I wrote down. They were just baffling to me. They were 1 for 5 on third down. I mean, bright side, they were 2 for 2 over to start the first quarter on fourth down conversions. They finished 2 for 3 on fourth down conversions. It's a lot better than 1 for 4, right? I mean, you go 66% instead of 25%. So you take those small wins, but they were 5 for 13 on third downs. They had too many moments where they had to either punt the ball or move on from it against FCS North Dakota. This is a team that heading into Frisco at Big 12 Media Days, from what I've said all offseason, from what media said, not just Kansas State media, but Big 12 and college football fans alike, national media stage, thought this team would be a Big 12 contender. It is hard to be able to make that argument right now after you almost losing to North Dakota. Now, who knows? Maybe North Dakota goes on and be one of the best ranked teams in the FCS. Maybe they go on to the FCS playoffs themselves with first-year head coach. Who knows if that happens? But what I can tell you is that even if that is the case, they shouldn't have been on upset alert in Manhattan with 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. This would have been, the first time since 2013 they would have lost to an FCS opponent? It's just, you couldn't let that fly. You just couldn't let that fly. And thankfully, that didn't happen. I thought the linebackers played decent for the most part. Austin Romaine was everywhere. I heard his name so much. Cody Stufflebean, he must have watched College Game Day because they asked the question about if they think his name's real or not. They asked Saban and McAfee and all those hosts, and he was on there. If you want to see that graphic, you can check it out. I posted it on Locked On K-State on Twitter. He must have took that personally, must have cued the Michael Jordan meme and said, all right, you want to know my name? Well, guess what? I'm going to get a forced fumble, recover that. I'm going to have a sack. I'm going to make some noise. And Cody Stufflebean did exactly that. I think he was the defensive player of the game in my mind. I really do think he played really good. Romaine was everywhere as well. Toby did a great job. But overall, I think the defense leaves me a lot of questions, especially in the secondary. And that is one of my biggest concerns I've had all off season long, trying to replace those guys like Parrish and Siegel. Eventually, we'll stop talking about their names because we'll have other names to talk about. But right now, there was just too many questions, too many times where they let players get outside the zones, get above them, get across the middle, and letting a guy in Jerry Kaminsky, a sophomore quarterback in the FCS, making his first ever start in college football, get the best of them against a Power 4 school in Kansas State. I mean, dare I say, if we're talking about another school right now, if we're taking the bias out of this, you'd probably use the word embarrassing. I think you would. I think you would use the word embarrassing. Switching back to offense real quick, then I want to talk special teams because I think we definitely got to talk special teams. Let me know who you think the MVP of the game is for Kansas State, though, offense or defensive side, or you can give me both offense and defense. Feel free. I think Devin Rice was great. I mean, we saw awesome stuff from Devin Rice. Devon Rice, I should say, excuse me. 2 touchdowns. He also had a great run early in this one. He was exactly what the offense needed to get to that spot to keep it moving. And that gave me a little bit of hope for the running game, but I think we still need to see more. And hopefully Dylan Edwards is back against Army. I'm almost kind of thinking you need to push Dylan Edwards a little bit now. I don't know if you can. I mean, you got to get him healthy, of course. And if he's ready to go, I know the report is he was out this week and doubtful for Army. But if he can go, I mean, maybe you think about it. Unless this is just going to be a completely kind of new week. And Chris Klieman hopefully changes his ways and just is super aggressive this week in practice. I mean, you got to go no holds bar here. You lost by 3 to Iowa State in a tough matchup. I'll give you that. But then you only win by 3 to North Dakota. That's something that needs to change. On that defensive side, we did hear that Malcolm Alcorn Crowder was in. I didn't see too much of him or him making any type of huge impact, but that means that we saw some depth on the defensive line starting to get some, but they were still pushed around. So if he got a lot of snaps, and we'll look at those snaps tomorrow and we'll discuss it on Monday about, what type of snaps and how many the defensive line got. If it was pretty evened out when they were playing a full game instead of, getting in some of those backups, if it was evened out and they're still getting pushed around, I think that's a problem. I think that's a huge problem, meaning that our depth is still not working for us. So something to keep in mind there. I didn't want to talk about this, but I think we need to. What's going on with our special teams? Is this the second year in a row that we're going to have to deal with this? I mean, we start Iowa State with the fumble from Dylan Edwards. We get the fumble in this one, running into our own player. I mean, the field goals were good. I guess you can take that. Rodriguez looks like he's going to be fine to hold it down. Punts haven't been very good. Sterling Lockett didn't look bad. I mean, are you in the boat as I am? Do you think Sterling Lockett should just be the guy back there? When Dylan Edwards comes back, he should just stay on offense and they just use Lockett. I think that might be the route. I think that's probably the route you take. But special teams is making me nervous. 3 facets of the game: offense, defense, special teams. You talk about that triangle, and all 3 sides of that are concerning for a Big 12 contender, folks. It's concerning. Did you think we were going to talk about this after this week 1 game against North Dakota? I thought we were going to talk about how great the confidence was, how we made a statement, how some of these questions about the trenches were answered, how the run game did step up and do what they needed to do to prove that it was just a tough Iowa State defensive line with all Big 12 defensive linemen. It's the complete opposite. It was the complete opposite. We didn't get those answered. If I'm overreacting, let me know in the comment description, because I try not to overreact, but this is an instant reaction show and we're going live for a reason. I enjoyed what Avery Johnson pushed. Before we get to the next segment, I take your questions. I enjoy what Avery Johnson did, and I do want to give him credit because he did have a career high in passing. He did still get 72% in his, or 65% in his completion rating. And I know that's not everything the numbers say. If you go back and watch this game, I think you could probably count 5 or 6 passes that either A, were just bad passes or could have been interceptions. There's definitely 3. I think you might be able to double that. And some moments, I think you can also say that I think Matt Wells did a good job. There were some times early in this game that the run game was struggling. Super bad, really bad. North Dakota was filling the box. They thought they knew the run was happening. They brought pressure. There was moments that North Dakota only brought 3, and they still got pressure to Avery Johnson too. So offensive line, you need to watch those ones. But I give a shout out to Matt Wells here because he really teased that run, even when it was struggling, and was able to open up the play action for really the first successful play of the game for Kansas State when he threw it over to Swanson that went for a decent amount. I want to say 20-something yards. It was great. I mean, I actually went longer than that, 38-yard pass to Swanson. That was really the first successful play that Kansas State had. I'm going to give Matt Wells a little bit of credit. I still want to see him start building more confidence with his play calling as well, because it hasn't been great the first two games. Hasn't been spectacular. And now that you went in this week knowing that Dylan Edwards wasn't going to be there. So in the press conferences all week, you talked about how your game plan was set up for Dylan Edwards. That's why you struggled in the first half. Well, you knew that you weren't getting Dylan Edwards this entire week, and you still struggled in the first half. So want to hear what you have to answer for that later on in the week. All right, let's get to this next break. On the other side, I'm going to answer your comments and questions. So leave them in the comments, and then also drop your score prediction for Kansas State Army. We'll do that next right here on Locked On Kansas State. But first, folks, this episode of Locked On Kansas State is brought to you by Upside. If you're still paying for full gas, well, don't do that. Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. You can even use my limited promo code FOOTBALL, all one word, and get extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just for buying gas that you already need. So you might as well check it out. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but I used the app, I used the promo code, and I got the bonus, and it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just for making your daily commute. So don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app. Now use my limited promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time, 25 cent per gallon bonus. Hey, everything adds up these days. So check it out. And that promo code is FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. All right, it's been a minute since I've done these live streams, so let me get these comments pulled up, and we'll have a chat here in the mailbox, if you will. If you're listening on audio after this live stream and you want to chime in as well, you can hit me up on Locked On K-State on Twitter, and of course I'll chat along with you. So let's just start from here. I mean, starting at the beginning. You know, people are saying this was an ugly game. Team stinks. Couldn't even watch the last 4 minutes. I don't know if you say the reason you couldn't even watch the last 4 minutes outdoors for life was because of your anxiety, or you had to watch with maybe your hands open or something, just because it was one of those crazy things. I feel that absolutely. My heart started beating a little faster. It felt like playoff energy, which it shouldn't have felt like playoff energy when you're playing an FCS team week 1. I don't know. I'm going to call this one an overreaction, saying I don't think we make it to a bowl game. I think they figure it out still. I mean, this is obviously disappointing, and I think this is concerning, but I think they figure it out. I don't think we're going to go and miss for a bowl game. But you want to go ahead and play devil's advocate? I'll play this game real quick. Every single team that has lost in Dublin since 2022 has gone less than 6 games. Nebraska went 4-8. They fired Scott Frost. Navy went 5-7, and we all know what happened with Florida State last year, 2-10. But hey, maybe we go 2-10 this year, and then next year we beat Alabama. Right? I mean, it could be that easy, right? No, I'm just kidding. We don't want that to happen whatsoever. But they have to get it right. They got to find a way to get it all together. Jarda says exactly what they said. It's still early in the season. I agree with you. It's still early in the season. This is probably my biggest overreaction of the year. I didn't feel this upset about losing the game against Iowa State. There was some mistakes that we made in Iowa State, but it's a rivalry game. It's a game that you play against a Big 12 opponent in week 0. It was also international. There was weather. I know you got both teams at the compete in it, but then you lose your star running back. I wasn't too upset about losing week 0. This game, I think I'm more upset about winning by 3 than losing by 3 last week, because we should have won by 33 points. There should have been a statement made by Avery Johnson and the offense, and there should have been not that many points, 35 points led up by the defense, your starting defense, right? If it was 35 points because we won 70-35 because our other defense was in, our backups, our depth, trying to learn some things, okay, we probably have a different conversation. But the fact that we put 35 points up by North Dakota and we were playing our starters, that's concerning. But I still don't think that means we're going to not have 6 wins. I think we're still going to go to it. I don't think that's going to happen. They did make the over, so shout out to everybody that's using our friends at FanDuel. We got a whole bunch of stuff in here. Lots of good stuff, lots of negative stuff that I'm not going to put up in the show, but I completely understand why you are saying it. We got some 6-6. They're thinking, hey, 6-6 is a bowl game. I don't think we're going that low though, folks. I still think the floor here is what we had last year, is 8-4. I don't want it to be 8-4, but I think that's where we're at. I think that's where we're at. Danny boy, how you doing, man? They won in all whites. That's about one of the good takeaways from this game. Hey, that's good. You got your whites at home. Aren't you excited for that? You finally got to have that happen. That's something that I know has been a thing. You want to make that happen. So, North Dakota's quarterback is a baller. He'll be playing on a D1 team next year. I think he will. I actually think he will, unless their new head coach is one of those guys that is very good in retention. One of the things we heard in deep dive this past week when we discussed with the guys over at FCS on SI, that the North Dakota brought back a decent amount of players, even though they switched from the coaching staff. So I think the culture there is pretty good for North Dakota. So shout out to them. But yeah, Kaminsky, he played good. He balled out. It was his first ever college start. He's a sophomore. He won out the battle from Romfo, who was the quarterback last year, returning for his senior season. And Kaminsky won the battle for him, right? Did a good job. He went for 231 yards, a touchdown. He completed 61% of his passes. It's unfortunate that we have to talk about him doing that to our defense. But yeah, he played really good. I think he could perform at the FBS level, but he might stick around. That culture sounds like it's pretty good with the Fighting Hawks. Let's hear about this one. They're talking about secondary coach needs to go. Look, the secondary definitely gave me some issues with this one. I don't know if it's pointing at the coach. I don't know if it's pointing at the performance. But overall, I think we do need to take a deeper look at the secondary. I'm not going to call for anybody's heads right now, not week 1 of the season. That's not something I'm going to go to. Hey, Robert, how you doing? Quay Moss was great in the secondary. He was flying it to the ball. Hey, Quay Moss has been given a lot of credit over the last 2 weeks. Since he's been over here in the portal, I think he's stepped up and done a really good job. He's part of that secondary question. So I definitely I want to give him his flowers because he definitely had some moments, especially last week too. But overall, I think if they do interview him when they have media availability like they did last week, I bet he doesn't talk about himself. He sounds like a true team player, and I think he's going to discuss how the secondary really needs to get a work, needs to get it figured out. Fantastic on the final drive. The big drive is a big stretch. Preston, I agree with you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I had 2 thumbnails and titles ready to go with a couple minutes left to go. I asked if this is an ugly loss or just what just happened. Like, what just happened? Did we lose? But there's a couple ways that you can say we still lost this game. The fact that you got your first win slightly by an FCS opponent, that's not going to help you. If you win out the rest of the season and you're 11-1, you might still make an at-large bid, right? Like that might still happen for you because you're 11-1, and I don't think you can pass up an 11-1 Power 4 conference. But if you're 10-2 and you're maybe on the edge, maybe you're like a BYU, they're going to look at this resume and say, you only won by 3 to North Dakota? Like, this is not good. This isn't good at all. So that's something that this could bite you. This could definitely bite you. But on the plus side, we're not in Big 12 play yet, with the exception of the Iowa State game. You still got 8 more Big 12 games, right? You're 0-1, but if you go 6-1 or 7-1 in those 8 games, you can get to Arlington. Is it a tough task? Yeah, absolutely. Some of these Big 12 quarterbacks have looked really good so far in some of these matchups. Texas Tech looked really good. BYU's quarterback, their freshman quarterback, he balled out. And some of these played FCF schools, but can we really say anything about that right now? But BYU looked good. Texas Tech looked good. I know Tech's quarterback actually had an injury, but looked good before he came out. We'll see what Arizona State looks like. Iowa State obviously looked really, really good this week. just continued their climb from last week. And we'll see what happens after that. I want to see what Arizona looks like after we saw what Army looked like last night, losing to FCS school. Arizona plays, I think they're playing right now against Hawaii. Hawaii had that upset win against Stanford. They're on the docket right after Army. And if we're having trouble with North Dakota, although I think Arizona finishes towards the bottom of the Big 12 this year, I think they're probably better than North Dakota. So there's a lot of things that we need to work on. So there we go. Cam says we should look at going back to the 3-3-5. This is the first week, I guess you could say, that they officially were in the front four, and they were pushed around. So if you went to the 3-3-5, I mean, they didn't really stop the run, right? I mean, they let up 102 yards rushing. They did let up a lot of passing yards. If you're more focused on going back to 3-3-5 because you need to make sure that secondary is being taken care of, maybe so, but you still got to find a way to control that run if you do that. I don't think you get enough pressure against teams when you are in the 3-3-5. Coach Klieman brought that up in his press conference as well. He said when you get 4 down, if you're able to get pressure when you have 4, then you can utilize the other 7 in coverage, which of course pressure beats coverage. You know, that's something he brought up as well. But if you're in the 3-3-5 and you're only bringing 3 and you don't get any type of pressure whatsoever, then eventually those wide receivers are going to get open. And that obviously happened today as well, even with a 4-man front. We got to do a better job at getting pressure up front with that defensive front. If we're not able to do it with a 4-man, we're definitely not going to be able to do it with a 3-man. And that's a problem. And that's pointing directly at the depth of the defense, especially the defensive line, something that I don't think we're 100% back. Obviously, we didn't have Ryan Davis back yet. Talked about a lot in media days. Malcolm Alcorn-Crowder was back, but I don't know how many snaps he played. I only saw him out there for a few snaps. I didn't see him out there quite a lot. I could be wrong, right? My eyes were looking across the entire defense and looking at the secondary and things like that. But when I do the rewatch and see the PFF snap grades and things like that, we'll obviously know, and we'll talk about that on Monday's episode. Is Avery Johnson a top half quarterback in this league? If you're talking about the Big 12, absolutely. And even though I do think we saw a lot of good quarterback play in the Big 12, I think you still put him there. I think you still put him in the top half of the Big 12. Hey, I was heading into this game, still considering him a dark horse candidate at the Heisman Trophy. I think that goes away now because you almost lost to an FCS school. I mean, if the voters, if the Heisman Trophy voters are just looking at box scores, I think Avery Johnson's still a high candidate, right? Because he didn't throw any interceptions yet. He's already at 600 yards passing. His completion percentage is pretty high. And the voters aren't always the most intelligent, right? We've seen that with college football playoffs. We've seen that with other awards in the past. So if that's the case, I mean, he's probably still in the running. But overall, just to answer your question, no, I do think that he's in the top half. I don't know if he's the best quarterback in the Big 12 right now. I mean, I hate to say this, I think you have to hand it to Rocco Beck at the moment. Rocco Beck's doing some good things, at least in the first 2 weeks of the season. We'll see what Sam Levitt looks like. We haven't seen him play yet. We'll see what some of these other ones looked like. I mean, Sorsby from Cincinnati, I mean, he was great as a runner. Couldn't really do much with throwing, but he looked great against Nebraska, although Cincinnati fell short in that game. I mean, even the freshman from BYU looked pretty hot. So, of course, we want to see them against good competition. But again, that's hard for us to kind of point that finger out when we just won by 3 against North Dakota. And this is all respect to North Dakota, but when you're thinking of Power 4 compared to FCS, I think that's just kind of as a given that you should be winning these games by a decent margin. I do think that. Outdoor for Life, so you kind of answered my question, or you kind of helped me out talking about this thing, saying we don't get pressure against opposing 3-3-5. So shout out there. Secondary would still get torched. As of right now, I agree with you. The secondary is an issue. The secondary is easily an issue as well. You know, you're right. And Chairman, even Evan, I'm not going to put that comment up there because I'm not going to put his name on a Locked On Kansas State podcast, but he says he's taken KU's quarterback over Beck. And as of right now, he's also been doing really good. So I agree with that as well. What's your score prediction for Army? We get to go into the game next week. We got to play Army. They just lost in double overtime to Tarleton State. And from what I'm hearing, that they're one of the more decent side, more respected FCS schools. But either way, they did lose it. Now they got to head into Manhattan. They have to take on Kansas State. And of course, that's should be, right, another way to make a statement for heading into Arizona and then ultimately Big 12 play, UCF, Baylor, things like that. So Where do you think that we are going to have Army? Do you think that's a win? Do you think we can take care of it? Do you think we finally make a statement? What is your score predictions for Army? Drop those in the comment description. If you have any other questions, I'll take those. But other than that, we're going to head out here in just a minute. Army score 40-28. Okay. If that's, I'll take that. 28 points from Army. That seems a little high for the Service Academy, but looking at the way our defense was this week, I don't disagree whatsoever. Cam says 31-24 Cats against Army. I think a win is a win. I think if you go out and as long as that 31-24 isn't you scoring a final touchdown with 3 minutes to go like you had to do in this game, I think you kind of take that and you move forward. You kind of tip your hat and you move on and get ready for Arizona. So, Cam, I'd take that 100%. I'm giving the game ball to Cody Steffelbein is my defensive MVP, and I'm giving the offense to Devon Rice. I think they both played great games. Those are my game balls today. I think they absolutely deserved it. You could hand it. Avery obviously could get it. Jace could obviously get it. Jace Brown had some great targets. I think Jace Brown would be my runner-up. But Devon Rice took the running game to a different level, although his numbers don't look as amazing as you would think when you're thinking of a player of a game. Only had 40 yards. He did have those 2 scores. But there was moments where he just stepped up at the right time. So Devon Rice is getting it. Cody Steffelbein's getting it for my defense. I think he was just everywhere. And that's where we're going to leave at today's episode. All right, if you haven't already, hit that like button. It helps the video out a lot, helps the channel out a lot as well. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button as well. It's free. It helps out the channel and helps pushing Kansas State. But until then, we'll see you here next time. We're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to talk the post-game pressers. We're going to get the reactions on that. So we're going to dive into that episode on tomorrow, even though it's Sunday. Locked On Kansas State, bringing you coverage every single day during the football season. And then we'll start diving in and breaking down, dissecting this game on Monday. And then looking forward to Army. Let's make sure we can go 2-1. So please like the video. Please subscribe. And this has been Locked On Kansas State.